Hello today from a wonderful, cold and foggy North Germany here on the Wars Rebellion podcast for Age Still War. I'm your host, Niels Eichhorn, and as you can see behind me, I got booted from my usual recording space into the living room today. We have guests in the house, so it's a little bit different. I hope we don't have any interference with dogs barking or neighborly voices appearing in the pod. Uh, as I hope it is enough quiet time in the evening to do this. Today we have a extraordinary special episode. This is episode number 25. We have done it for a quarter century, if you like. And for this, I have also a rather special guest, I feel, because we have been in California with various commodities quite a few times now. We have done wine, we have done lemons, and today we're going to do sugar and sugar beets. And again, going into the Gilded Age. So, joining us tonight, or today, is Sandra Bonura.
Well
And
done.
thank you. I stumbled there almost. And we are looking at her newest book, published with the University of Nebraska Press, The Sugar King of California, The Life of Claus Spreckels. And of course, written as E-L at the end, not L-E, since it is German. And this is, I feel like, the third in an installment of books related to sugar and the sugar business, because she previously also did one of the sons, Empire Builder, John D. Spreckels, and the Making of San Diego. And the first book in the series, Light in the Queen's Garden, Ida Mae Poe, Pioneer for Hawaii's Daughters. So, and I see, oops, An American Girl in the Hawaiian Islands, The Letters of Carrie Produce Winter. You have been extremely prolific, Sandy.
Yeah, and two more you haven't even mentioned because you don't know about them.
Well,
Yeah,
your
I'm busy.
website doesn't have them.
Yeah, I'm busy.
You've
Every
been
book
ex
is my last book. Every book, I'm doing no more. I go, well, maybe one more.
I can see that, and there are definitely a few more Spreckles characters that could get a biography, I assume.
Through
But
that.
so you have done the Sun for San Diego, and then you're doing the Dad for San Francisco. So
Right.
I guess first question would be, why the Sun first and then the Dad, and why did the Dad need a biography after the Sun?
Well, that's a great question. When I did Empire Builder, it's only because I was in Hawaii researching my Hawaiian missionaries who came from the United States during the Hawaiian monarchy era. And when I'm looking, I'm going, I kept coming across the name Spreckels. My grandmother used to say Spreckels. She was a German grandmother. But I kept coming across his name and I'm like, that's weird. That guy's one of our pioneers in San Diego. So I did some side research, just kind of fascinated. Anyways, long story short, I wrote John D. Spreckels' book thinking that's the end of the Spreckels and my involvement. Meanwhile, during the writing of that book, I came across many, many descendants of the Spreckels families who did not know each other because of all the varied lawsuits down the generations. And there were those who have and those who have not. And I had a couple of family reunions, and pretty soon I'm an unofficial Spreckles cousin. And so I felt like that's cool. I was very very much in love with that. Now that book, Empire Builder, John D. Spreckels and the Making of San Diego. I think it was published 2020, the pandemic. Great. So, I couldn't do the book talks,
Yep.
couldn't go out and promote it. No one cared. I'm like, oh my gosh, my timing was all off. But let's fast forward to today. That book is a big seller. It's
Mm.
it's got a gorgeous cover of the Hotel del Coronado. So all the tourist spot in San Diego. It's gotten great reviews. So it got a rocky start. So that book, and I don't know who's buying it, to be honest with you, but I see these royalty checks, which, you know, those of us who write nonfiction, scholarly books, we never expect to make a dime. We'll never expect to get back what we pay out. But so that book has been a surprise. So during the publishing, excuse me, once that book was out, Der Spiegel, which isn't that is that a German periodical?
Yep. Yeah, it's basically sort of like equivalent to Newsweek or Time magazine in Germany.
Okay, so I've never heard of Der Spiegel here in San Diego, but
Might be able to find it at the airport, actually.
Oh, really? I need to fly more, sounds like. Sounds like I need to go somewhere.
The international side, not the Hawaii side.
Again, I need to go somewhere. So when the Der Spiegel came out and sort of saying, who is this robber baron, which they got wrong. He was not a robber baron. Who is this Claus, the Sugar King, and Sandy Bonura? They contacted me, the writer of that story, and wanted some photos and blah, blah. And I shared that with my publisher. And before I know it, I'm like being encouraged to write, hey, Claus Spreckels is big. And I did not know that. So I was thinking, well, let me consider writing a biography on Claus Spreckels. In Hawaii, there was a biography. Last one was done in 1960, which just covered his shenanigans. There's a lot of amazing shenanigans Claus Spreckels pulled in Hawaii. And then that was it. Nobody had the whole picture of him. And of course, since I did his son and all the children of Claus, I thought, oh, I know why, how. So anyway, it was a logical thing. I went up to San Francisco, Monterey County, Aptos, Watsonville, all these places in Northern California. I had never been. Oh, I've been to San Francisco for an inspiration. Okay, if I write a book, I have to love it, and it has to sustain me, because I'm ADHD. I will get bored and walk right out. So when I went up there and I went to the little town of Spreckels, which is a historical town.
I was just going to ask that.
As like I started meeting people who lived who's now, fourth, fifth generations in the same house. I'm like, and they were like, he changed our lives. And I looked at the Salinas Valley. He made that entire valley green. How come no one's known about him? Yeah. And then I kept meeting farmers' descendants whose lives were changed. And then I went to where I said he owned the whole thing of Aptos. And he had a whole German culture in San Francisco. He built 5 railroads. I'm going, I'm in it to win it. So I decided to publish this story because it's not just San Francisco. It's really all of California. I mean, we are forever changed. And I'm surprised that no one had done his biography before. That's how important this man is. So the book's only been out for a few months. I hope it finds an audience. It's got great reviews so far.
Good.
And I've submitted it for some consideration, for some acknowledgments of its greatness. And anyways, that's kind of how I fell into Claus Spreckels' book. And it took me a while to fall in love with my subject. So halfway through the research, I went, oh, I get you. I love you. Well, then I was able to finish
you're feeling better than his children do about him.
Yeah, true.
Oh my. So before we get into sort of the meat of the book and sort of Spreckels' life, I wanted to talk a little about first the writing approach. So when you started writing it, let me take a step back. It's a really accessible book. It's a really kind of nice read. It's a page turner, right? It's very engaging. It's not very deep in sort of a scholarly language. It's accessible for a general audience. So but you published this with University of Nebraska Press. So I'm kind of did you, when you started writing, think already in terms of like you wanted this to be for like a popular audience, or did you kind of think like, how do I kind of balance academic and popular? How was like, how did you decide on like the right approach for the book?
I could literally just hug you right now. I really could. I don't think anybody's ever asked me that question. So I think it helped and hurt me to have a doctorate
Hmm.
and had through a
Totally.
committee, you know,
Hmm.
where I could be so scholarly, I could not have an opinion. I couldn't
Hmm.
write. I had to stand on the giants of those who came before me.
Yes, yes.
And and I remember the committee criticizing my dissertation, going, "I still hear you. I don't want to hear you." And I'm like, "Why? Stuff." And the first couple of books I wrote were like still that dissertation committee was in
Mhm.
my. I couldn't get them out,
Yes.
and so I started playing around with I read fiction.
Hmm.
That's what if I want to relax or go to the gym, my book is a fiction book.
Mm.
So I need to end every chapter and get and have a page turner for the next chapter. So I'm not going to get off the exercise side. I
Hmm.
got to read a chapter. So
Yeah.
I wanted to make that book like that. So one thing someone told me once, Sandy, I love the way you write because it sounds like you're talking to me.
Hmm. Yes, that's
No,
how it
he said,
felt.
yeah, you're just telling me I'm a storyteller.
Hmm.
I grew up at my grandmother's knees hearing her stories of old Germany, and the old villages and during the war and the flu and telling stories for drinking her schnapps. I became a storyteller. And as I became a classroom teacher, I was very popular because I told my students why they should learn this, or this. Here's
Hmm.
why. And oh, let's go.
Yeah.
And so then I became a counselor and I began gathering people's stories,
Hmm.
then paraphrasing them and telling them back. So it's been a long road, but I wanted to get rid of that scholarly voice. So I had to find out, who am I writing to?
Hmm.
How I change. So who am I writing to? Because I had met so many of the Spreckels descendants who knew nothing, and varying degrees of education and awareness. I'm going to write to them. And I began, and I just loved it. And I started playing around. I'm going to start using contractions instead of
Hmm.
he should not do that. I went, he shouldn't do that. I went to contractions. I broke all the rules. I start sentences with but. And then I just went hog wild. And so by the time I got to, so after Empire Builder, um, I wrote another book, which it was a commissioned biography.
Hmm.
Really, I said, you know what? Since I don't know if this book is going to get published, but I'm going to write it, I'm just going to just let Sandy go wild.
Right.
I'm not going to dumb down any facts whatsoever. I'm not going to sanitize history, but I'm going to tell you it how you should. I'm a woman. I'm going to elaborate a little bit. But I'm also a teacher. So when I write, I'm going to teach you something about the context of this time. I want you to know more. And I'm not going to use other people's books and cite them. I'm going to
Hmm.
primary research. I'm going to look at old newspapers. I'm going to crawl into attics. I'm going to beg people to let me have what they have. I
Yeah.
just brought some chocolates and some flowers. Hi, can I go in your attic? So I will do whatever it takes to get something fresh and new, to bring a new perspective. And I've been very successful at it. And when I wrote Sugar King, the thing that I heard from another podcaster is, and he publicly says, this is the most readable biography I've read in ever. And
Hmm.
in 20 years, it's the best. I'm like, oh, you're lying. I said, certainly you're lying. This is
Bar's
just
low,
like,
actually.
huh?
Bar's somewhat low. I mean, I've
Yeah,
read
it's
a number of
true.
biographies where you kind of were like,
True. He says, I actually finished your book. And I went, well, thank you.
hmm.
So he says, because anyway, so that's the style I'm not giving up. And then my publisher My acquisitions editor is Bridget Berry with the University of Nebraska Press. When she brought my first book in, she was not the editor-in-chief as she is today. And I'm like the president of her fan club. I said, you know what? I need to do this. And it's just go for it. Make it readable, make it general public.
Yeah.
She's progressive enough that she doesn't need to follow some rigid scholarly academic model. And I think the sales of my books kind of, encourage that as well. And anyway, I can't imagine publishing with anybody but them now,
That's
because
great to hear.
yeah, they want to sell books.
Yeah.
It's only a small market. You know what I found? Book clubs use my book. Both of them. That was telling. What book
Yeah.
clubs pick up a scholarly, another one on Carnegie, or you get it, Standard Oil. So thank you for that. I probably didn't answer your question, but that's all right.
No, and I think that's kind of thinking about like biography, right? Your book is, I forget exactly where the page number. I think it's around 350 odd
It's a lot.
printed pages for your.
400.
Yeah,
And
I want to be cautious.
yeah,
But
she kept telling me, you need to, during it, she says, this is way too big. You need to reduce it. I remember getting the editors were calling, this is too big. Reduce it. The cost of paper has like quadrupled since the pandemic. We can't afford to print a book. People can still afford to buy. And I says, okay, I'll do the best I can. Okay, well, this man, I'm
you
sorry.
can't bring him down.
I couldn't leave out. I mean, I did the best I can to whittle away, but this man was larger than life itself. So at the end, they gave me their own copy editor instead of outsourcing it. I said, I'm going to put this in your copy editor. She can edit anything out she wants. She couldn't find anything either. She's like, I'm sorry, I can't. The book's got to go as it is. So it's like,
I wish I had that. I remember the press, it was my latest book was like, nope, you can't have pictures. You're already too long.
yeah, see, Bridget, and how many pictures do you get in your book?
Didn't get any. We didn't get any. We only wanted 10, and they didn't even give us those.
Well, you can hire me to contact them for your next book because I'll make them put pictures in.
Maybe not the next one, the one after that.
Yeah.
Next one is already under contract. Though I was fascinated by your comment about two comments actually you already made. So one of them was the attics and kind of looking for people's personal kind of writings and stuff, and then sort of like your ties to Germany. So we're talking about a German. We're talking about a German who wrote in the 1850s, 60s, 70s, which means you, I would assume, had to read old German handwriting. Oh, you're mean.
I don't speak German except for what my grandmother taught me. Ich
Oh.
liebe dich, komme flogen, geh vogels, that's just no, I don't speak German. My mother spoke German, but all.
So he wrote everything in English?
Claus came over here when he was 17 years old.
Yeah.
He landed here, and so first of all, those of us who write about San Francisco history, we have a problem. Because
yeah, you have that earthquake.
The earthquake and fires burned everything. So we have to spread our tendrils. When I was looking at John D. Spreckels, who also lived through the earthquake, and his father Claus, I had to reach out. Now, in Germany, Uwe Spiekermann, who I told you about earlier, before we were recording, he's a genealogist in Germany. He's done research on the Spreckels family, and I would run everything by him. I says, okay, is this accurate? Is this one of the cousins, or is this, blah, blah, blah? where's this road? Where's this church? Where's this town? He was a tenant farmer, and this is the address. Can you confirm it? And so Uwe and I, we zoomed from Germany to San Diego right in the beginning, and we shared information because Claus buried, 7 children. And I had some dates, he had some dates. We shared the dates from Germany, and then he even flew over here. He's got 2 doctorates. This guy's genius, Uwe Spiekermann, and a really nice man. So he flew over here, and he wrote the foreword to Empire Builder book. But I used him a lot for my Germanness.
Okay.
I didn't want anything to be inaccurate. I don't want, now because Claus founded so many industries where there are cult followings today, the railroads. You tick off a railroad person, you say the wrong train and a wrong line, everything you say afterwards is lies. So I paid someone in Australia who was a expert on trains in California. And I says, I will pay you. I want you to review this chapter, review my notes, make any corrections. Well, what do you want? Because I don't want the railroad people coming after me. I want to honor them by getting everything right. So that's important. And then for the shipping, there's a whole, the Spreckels family had the first shipping company in the Pacific. Okay, they've got a cult following. Then we've got your Hawaiian monarchy experts, and besides the German, it was a lot on my shoulders, to get this book because the audience would be so diverse, unlike the other one.
Yeah.
So quite a challenge for yours truly.
Well, you're talking to a Civil War historian. I know how those buffs can get really fancy about the position of one regiment.
Oh, yes, Civil War.
Inch too far to the right, man. No, you've got everything wrong now.
I know. And now I used to say there used to be 620,000 men who died in the Civil War. Now it's 700,000 now. So you can't get that wrong anymore. Someone was at one of my talks, and she's an expert on the Civil War casualties to 2024. It's now 700,000. Don't get that wrong because you'll have no credibility.
Yeah. Isn't it lovely? And I can't imagine when you have rail enthusiasts, shipping enthusiasts, Hawaii enthusiasts, probably sugar enthusiasts, all
agricultural. Oh my gosh, the agricultural's got its. I didn't know that. That's a whole separate. I have a lot of respect for those people. Anyways, it's in many ways it was such a fun book that every book that follows Sugar King seems lacking because it's like, you didn't do what he did. I got to get that out of my head. It's like, oh, you're not even in his wheel. You're not even in the lines. It's hard.
I'm going to kind of start on the back end of what questions I could think of. And I'm going to make it easy for you. What are the 3 things that most fascinated you about Claus?
Oh, wow. 3, huh?
I was thinking 1, but I think 3 is better.
Okay. Well, one thing about just what he represents, that rags to riches, the poor European guy, European person who comes over with nothing in their pockets and becomes California's richest man and one of the 10 richest men in America. That I found fascinating because people say, oh, America, chasing them. No, there are very few people who actually did that.
Yeah.
So that blows my mind when I started researching who else in our history is like him. Very few. Yeah. I think that's a myth. So I think it's the myth of that, of somebody who faces impossible odds, from grinding poverty to, extraordinary wealth. It's just one of many in America. No. So that's one thing fascinated me. Second thing that really, it's still, I don't know how that's going to change, but he has such a negative profile in Hawaiian amongst the historians and those, they think about him with hate.
Mm.
It was cleverly designed. When you read the book, you'll see how that all
Oh,
happened.
I can see that. I can totally see
Oh,
it.
and then you go to the Salinas in California, and he's full of love. He's
Mm.
They
Well,
don't know the Hawaiian side. The Hawaiian side doesn't know the California farming side.
mm.
They don't know.
Yeah.
And I hope this book brings a whole more comprehensive picture of this man to light. So I just had no idea.
Mm.
And then to get this read in Hawaii,
Mm-hmm.
it takes it's going to take some effort on my part because
Mm-hmm.
I'm Hawaiian. I don't teach at the University of Manoa. I'm just a Howley senior citizen who lives in California, and we are overloaded with opinions. So I've always made sure when I'm discussing Hawaiian history that I'm not telling them their history. I'm reporting it, I'm writing for Americans so
Mm-hmm.
they understand Hawaiian history, because I understand the overthrow of the monarchy more than most. I have like 6 published things, and I keep saying, I am telling this for Americans from the American perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we'll see how that all happens. And then the third thing, well, I'm very sad about his relationships with his kids,
Mm-hmm.
and I understand, his German tenaciousness. When he started something, he was going to finish it, even to the detriment of his health, of his family, of his relationships. And it just surprised me that no one came alongside him and said, Claus, you've got a lot of money. How about you buying, giving yourself a nice little island somewhere, and you could have Mai Tais and relax, you know? But he just,
We tried
I want,
Hawaii, right?
yeah, well, yes, but I want to go back to him sometimes. No, don't do this, Klaus. No, this will hurt the kids. No, you'll never see your grandchildren again. Don't do it. Because there was grandchildren he never got to meet.
Yeah.
And no,
Yeah.
so there's more. There's more.
No, and that's definitely a couple of the aspects that I found the most interesting as well. And what what really struck me beyond sort of the tenaciousness, right? Of like I want to be the best. I want to be at the top of it, right? It was not just I want middle. I want to be at the top. I want to be the best in the business, dominate the
Absolutely.
business.
Yeah. And whatever industry he went to and he took over, why is anybody complaining? Only the people are benefiting. I mean, you couldn't complain. He lowered prices,
Hmm.
the public benefited, and so, like, for instance, when he started the electrical company, which today is now PG&E, the biggest in San Francisco, California. Klaus started that as a war against an enemy, but he was going to make it bigger and better. So if he thought the clay conduits were shabby, oh, I'll make my own, thank you very much. And if when he started the brewery, when he developed steam beer, those barrels, I'm not putting my beer in those barrels. I got to start a barrel factory because you people don't know how to make good barrels. So this is what he did over and over and over again. He elevated, he upgraded, he took electricity to Hawaii.
Yeah.
We're like 12 years before the White House got it. This man was far-seeing. He was progressive and didn't cut corners. And he's not a robber baron like some German people I won't mention say, because robber barons are not, they take over other industries, right? Pull them up, they expand it. He had no interest in taking anything over because everybody else was substandard, right? I mean, hello. And by the way, when you went to work for Klaus Spreckels, you died there. And your kids came because you were better paid. You got beer in the morning and you got beer in the afternoon. And why would you leave for that? And you got a bag of sugar to take home. So you had good benefits. Why would you leave? Now, you talk to all the other robber barons in America, those people were hated by their employees.
Mhm.
They weren't treated right. But you cannot say this about Mr. Spreckels.
Yeah. No, that was you already took like 5 questions that I had in mind out of me because like
Sorry.
the beers, I was just fascinating. But the where I was also going to hit was so he always improved, and that was just incredible. Like, I, yeah, I love the clay factory where he makes his own conduits for like the electricity and like everything. So what was so fascinating was the sugar in and just his sugar businesses in general that he got his hands dirty, right? It's like he didn't sit in the office. He went down there on the
Oh,
floors. He worked with his other workers. And where does this come from that he like to learn is like I'm gonna go to New York or I'm gonna go to Germany. I'm gonna work as a average laborer in the sugar refinery or sugar beet industry to learn how it's being done. Like who does that, right?
it's unbelievable. It's just the way it should be. It's too bad. Well, in a way he did, but in a way he didn't. Maybe with John, his oldest son, he had John work from the ground up,
Hmm.
right? The
Yeah.
other boys, he kind of let loose. He forgot, his principles of,
Hmm.
John had to wear overalls. John, you're my heir apparent. You're my eldest son. This
Hmm.
is yours. He didn't want it, by the way. John never wanted it. But when he was a younger man, he had to wear the overalls right along by his dad and
Hmm.
get into work and making sure everything. He didn't trust people
Yeah.
because he made a mistake in the beginning of his career in San Francisco of trusting the wrong people and believing that they would do the quality work. So he says, no, I will, yeah, hands-on boss.
Hmm.
John was not like that, by the way. His
Yeah.
son John was very shy, hated public speaking. Klaus was a hello, everybody, come on in and have a beer. John was like, he was very proper.
Mm.
So yeah, I just love that about him. And I don't know if I don't think that's a cultural thing. I just think that's a personality thing.
Hmm. Yeah, I kind of got that feeling. But it's just such an unusual thing to be like just even though you're already a well-to-do person, just like, no, I'm gonna do average factory work and learn how it's
Absolutely.
being done so that I can do it better in my
That's right.
factory.
Did you read that story? I don't know if you've read the book entirety.
Oh,
And
I read
again,
it top to bottom.
oh, thank you. Do you remember the story in Aptos? It's whittled down in the book. Do you remember when he's in Aptos, already wealthy beyond belief? He's bought the
Yes, the
town.
story where he gets to see the doctor that wants to meet him, and
Yes, he's like,
yes,
yeah, I love that. And I whittled that down. That's a huge, long story how he played with them. So,
oh, I
right.
bet you had fun with
Yeah.
that.
King Kalakaua has already come to Aptos at Klaus's reputation. So he's already well known worldwide, Klaus Spreckels. And then he's wearing these dirty clothes. He's pulling a cart, it's like, and this doctor would not believe, no, I come here to see the Sugar King. No, you're not no Sugar King.
You're
You're a
just a
laborer.
gardener.
You're a gardener. Yeah, I love that.
And you could really like having like I mean that's about midway through your book. By that stage, you know how he operates. You can really see him do that. That kind of
Absolutely.
personality, the kind of like yeah. I was just thinking that did he like go incognito when he went to some of these factories and worked as a laborer, or did
Oh,
okay,
yeah, no. Well, when he went to the cane sugary factory in New York,
yeah,
to the refinery, I don't think there was anything to hide. He wasn't in. He
yeah, he
wanted to
wasn't
learn.
famous yet. Yeah.
But when he went to the famous sugar beet factory in Germany, I'm
Hmm.
sure he was down low.
Yeah.
He and guess what? He gave his business card out because pretty soon he stole all those employees when he went back. Probably as he was leaving. Oh, I've learned everything I've got to do about cultivation of sugar beets and refining of sugar beets. And by the way, if you want to come to San Francisco, I got a job for you. Here's my card. And then he probably ran to the train station. Yeah,
Yeah, I could
so
see that. Like this is
yeah.
still age where if there was a good opportunity, people would come.
Oh yeah. The Germans filled up the south of Market of San Francisco. Today it's called Soma, but he
Hmm.
recreated Germany for himself there by all these northern Germans.
Hmm.
Bring the northern Germans, the ones who needed to escape, the ones who didn't, had all the problems. And so I love that. And so they said he would walk through the streets with his cigar. He always had a Cuban cigar and speaking in German. The Lutheran church, he the Lutheran church in San Francisco, he brought everything from Germany, the chandeliers, he donated the
Hmm.
money, wanted a little Germany for himself and
Yeah.
his family. And
And
by the way, he loved his wife. His wife went with him everywhere.
yeah. And I think you had it in was it after the refinery trip in New York where he kind of like was really sort of depressed and like it was like after one of his first trips, he just was so feeling lonely that he always brought his family every time afterwards because he didn't
Yeah.
want that separation from them.
Well, as a mom,
Yeah.
I'm like, when he decided to take his first trip to San Francisco from San Francisco, first of all, we didn't have the Continental Railroad. So
Mm-hmm.
how did he get from San Francisco? This is a question for you. How did he get from San Francisco to New York?
A long trip by boat.
What was not built yet?
Yeah, the canal.
The canal was not built. So
Yeah.
we're talking 6 months,
Yeah.
you know? How
Yeah.
long does that take? And by the way, the
That's one
civil
way.
yeah, the Civil War was raging,
Yeah.
raging
Yeah.
in New York. And then he tells Anna, his wife, Anna, pack my bags. I'm going to New York. I'm going to be a sugar refiner. You're what? Yeah, that's in my future. We're gonna be sugar refinery family. And by the way, John's coming with me. Pack his little bag too. You're taking was he
Oldest?
13? Was he 9 or wait? I think he was 13. Ah,
Yeah.
he was a boy. Can you imagine his mother? Oh, you're
Mm-hmm.
taking
For a
our
year or more. Mm-hmm.
yeah to New York in the Civil War, because remember the Civil War was the first war that
Yeah.
Americans could actually hear about it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. It touched everywhere.
yes. So we knew about the bloody bodies the same day it
Mm-hmm.
was fires.
Yeah.
There was a lot of fear. And New York
Mm-hmm.
City, when he was there, the draft had just happened, and you think everybody was for going to war with the South? Oh
Mm-hmm.
no, New York's like, we ain't going. So he was right there, he and his young son John, at the outbreak of the most horrible riot I think the United
Mm-hmm.
States ever had. I mean, he was just like, but he stayed nose to the grindstone.
Yeah.
Let me learn sugar refining. I don't care about all this.
Yeah.
That's how he was, nose to the grindstone. Work, 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 work.
Well, and then also like, all right, I learned it. Now I'm gonna order the material to make my sugar refinery, right? Like before he
Yes.
even goes back, he's like already ordering and prepping and like, yes, this is what I'm gonna do.
Yes. And how successful was he? I mean, that's when he had a couple of partners, if you remember. That's when
Yes.
he learned never,
Don't
ever,
do it.
ever. Oh, by the way, John was 9. He was
Yeah.
not 13. He was 9 years old. So Claus took the evening shift. So when his son was purportedly sleeping, and his son said it was the loneliest time of his life, being
Mhm.
in this house while his father worked. And by day, the two of them went to all the refineries in New York, because New York was the refining capital of the United States. So they went to all the sugar refineries to learn best practices.
Mhm.
So when he went back to New York, they stole the competition. Of course, he like, oh, when he didn't learn just at the factory, he went to see what everyone else was doing, and he got this model of best practice based on what he saw everywhere.
Mhm.
Then he goes back and his partners, he got these couple of partners, I don't know where he got them from. They did not want to reinvest their dividends. Oh, we're rich now. Claus will go, okay, let's put our money into it. We're going to get bigger. They're like, oh, you need to cool it. You need to slow it down, Claus. We're very comfortable here. What's the hurry? He's like, how dare you? And this is our opportunity. And I'm president. I went to New York. I ordered the equipment, and you won't let me expand and build up and develop patents. And by the way, that's when several of his children had died. I think it all came crashing down, the public falling out. Claus has a nervous breakdown. He's forced to go back to Germany to take the waters because he doesn't trust any Americans to heal him. And that's a delightful reading in the books, because I learned a lot about healing from nervous breakdowns, American style versus European. I'll take the European myself.
Yeah, based on what you said about the American was a bit like, yeah, no, that sounds like torture.
Yeah, torture.
Oh my. Quickly going back, so I love when you talked about the little neighborhood at the sort of fineries that he creates, because that plays such an important role throughout his life, and especially towards the end of his life, when after the earthquake. And it seems like he's almost a little uncomfortable moving into the high society. He wants to stay in that little community. He feels very comfortable in sort of this place where he's surrounded by people that work for him, that are part of sort of the family of his refinery and the same language. And he doesn't want to be with the millionaires, billionaires up in the downtown area.
You're right. He could have moved to, Nob Hill, where all the other ones did, but he chose to move to Pacific Heights, where all the other family members followed. But he was never comfortable in the mansion. He said it. He says, I kept his other little house. So after the earthquake, he actually had his little house on Howard Street to go back to, which is very, very precious. But when he had, you can look at the society pages in San Francisco. It's called the WASP. It's a pretty big, they cover every party, every event, list everything. You're never going to see Klaus Spreckels going there. You can see a couple of his sons, his party boys there, but he would know his family were his workers and his extended family who kept coming over from northern Germany. The more money he, the more established. All his brothers came over. His wife's entire family came over, and their family. So it became, big cousins, and it became a real home for him, particularly since his father's and mother died in Lamstead. But when you look at the guest lists for weddings of his children or his grandchildren, the people who are there are all people who work for him. They're not the high society. He had more money than the people who lived on Nob Hill, than the Stanfords, than all those people who developed the railroad. He could buy them out.
Yeah.
But he didn't care.
Right.
He just, I don't know. Maybe he was rough around the edges, our Klaus. He wasn't educated back east. Maybe they ostracized him. I don't know that for sure. But you know what? He was rough. And they were very, polished in their ascots and their, their little, that group, that society group. He just didn't, nah.
Yeah, and I think he kind of, based on sort of this personality, right? Like working in an overall in the refinery and not wearing a suit and tie in the office, that can turn off a millionaire that wants to hang out with you a little bit, or sort of like, oh, I actually enjoy walking down the street where my workers live. Yeah, I can see that being a little issue. So that all said, so we're actually, no, let's go with this other escape, because he's not just San Francisco focused, and we're not quite going to Hawaii yet, but he also goes to the coast. And he already mentioned Aptos as sort of one of his little experiments. So why do we have Aptos, and what's sort of the origins of what he eventually wants to turn into sort of a vacation um, holiday place for people?
Well, Aptos is, for those of your listeners or viewers, Aptos is just below Santa Cruz County.
Mhm.
And Aptos is a beach community. It's one of the California, treasures. It's redwood forest right to the
Mhm.
sea. And it's about, hours and hours from San Francisco by buggy, by stagecoach. Or you can take a little boat if you're rich enough and go to Santa Cruz and then stagecoach down to Aptos.
Mhm.
Before Klaus Spreckels came along, nobody from San Francisco could go to Aptos, which is just, kind of Monterey County, but not, it's kind of north of that. Beautiful, beautiful. No one could go there because there was no train.
Mhm.
If did you read the thing where he partnered with another German,
Yes.
the first railroad? I love when those Germans went to bat against each other. They that went wrong real quick, but
And
they
it's
built
and I
first.
love the story of Capitola and Aptos, sort of the
Yes,
two competing destination
yes,
spots of vacation homes, and
yes,
in the end,
yes.
neither one of them really made it.
No, but Aptos was always his home.
Hmm.
You
Yes.
know, where he had beautiful home there. He donated lands for the school. That was
Mhm.
his home because San Francisco was very congested at this time.
Yeah.
And he had already now had two, maybe three little breakdowns, where he's just doing too much too fast. Where
Hmm.
Anna did something for the kids to, in summers and for weekends, have somewhere that they could relax. And you can see what the house looks like because there's still one standing today in Aptos.
I
And
was just going to
I've
ask
been,
that. Okay.
yeah, I've been through. Now, Klaus's house burned down, but the same house with the same floor plans was Anna's brother,
Okay.
his wife's brother-in-law. So he used it, and that's beautiful. So you can go, I go through that house, I open all the cupboards. It's just so glorious. It's so grateful to the owner who lets me
Yeah.
just go there and imagine Klaus storming.
Mm.
But Aptos was near the Salinas Valley, excuse me, the Pajaro Valley, which is in the middle of the United States, is this little green swath. And it's all the way to the top, like Sacramento, all the way down. It's where we are all farmland.
Mhm.
In fact, the Pajaro Valley and the Salinas Valley, we feed America its berries, its lettuces,
Mhm.
everything. Klaus moved to Aptos, all that area was wheat,
Mhm.
brown wheat, and cattle. So during Klaus's era, California wheat farmers competed against each other for wheat, which made it low, which
Mhm.
kept them impoverished. We were struggling. We didn't compete with America, and all Klaus wanted to do was California needs to be heard.
Yeah.
He teamed up with Levi Strauss. Levi Strauss was his good buddy,
Mm.
both from Germany. One did blue jeans, one did sugar.
Good
Both of them,
combination.
huh?
Good combination.
Good combination. Um, One Jew, one Lutheran. They didn't care. They were busy,
Mm.
creating industries, and they teamed up to do another railroad together.
Mhm.
Of course, Klaus Spreckels had way more money than Levi Strauss, but anyways, today we know the name Levi Strauss. Today we don't know Klaus Spreckels, so hopefully that changes with my book. But so this land, he wanted California to grow sugar beets.
Mhm.
It's too convoluted to go into all the stories of how he lost all his holdings in Hawaii and how the missionary descendants teamed up against him to ensure
Mhm.
he had nothing after building the largest sugar plantation in the world there. The world. He's responsible for all the infrastructure, everything in Hawaii at that time, and elevating the kingdom. But it all went wrong. His sons couldn't be trusted because they had other industries they were interested in, at least one. Anyways, it all went wrong. But so when he switched to sugar beets, he still was refining sugar cane. So he was really a sugar commodity both until the 1906. But so I go through, if you go look at a map, you realize he irrigated the complete state. He irrigated. It's green. It's because of him. That's why we are called a salad bowl of America. And I think they need to put a statue of Claus Spreckels in the middle of some farm field somewhere to give him his credit, because he had an engineering mind. How do you irrigate? The methods of 19th century to irrigate, I mean, you have to be incredible.
Yeah.
Work with these engineers to get water there.
Well, maybe not in the middle of a field, but maybe in the middle of Watsonville would be good, right?
Yeah. Anywhere. I'll take any statue for my guy.
That's true. And I grew up in North Germany, and I always remember in the falls that you drove through the countryside, and there was these big heaps of sugar beets on the fields, on the sides of the road. And at the time, it was always like, oh no, we're not using sugar beets much anymore. And it was so interesting then to read how important the sugar beet actually was for like sugar production, and how much of the sugar in the States was used or came from sugar beets.
Well, after he bought it. I mean, after him. Now, the sad part of American history is sugarcane cultivation fueled the slave trade.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people go, oh, what did the slaves do? Oh, they were picking cotton. Okay, that was a cushy job compared to working a sugarcane plantation in Louisiana, where the lifespan was 7 years. It was a dangerous, horrible, where children had, I go into all the details of sugarcane cultivation and beet. I've become an expert somehow. I need to go to some sugar convention.
I guess I could ask, like, which one is your favorite, sugar cane sugar or sugar beet sugar?
Well, because it didn't fuel the slave trade, it's sugar beet culture. And because all of Germany used sugar beets for sugar in his era. And we couldn't believe someone could take this ugly little beet and make sugar out of it. That would be identical to sugar. So when I do talks in San Diego,
Do you bring a sugar beet?
I take both. I bring the product. I bring sugar beet and sugarcane sugar. Okay. And I asked someone to come up from the audience, a couple people, which one's sugar beet and which one's sugarcane? What do you think? You can't taste the difference. It's indistinguishable.
Wow.
And how could a sugarcane, can you mention the stalk, the big spiny stalk that grows into the sky, and a beet? How does it get the same product?
Yeah.
Mind blowing, right?
Yeah.
And now today, 2025, my friend, 60% of the United States gets their sugar from the beet.
Thanks to Spreckels.
I live in California, so we're all cane here.
Yeah. So,
but if I lived in Colorado, I'd be buying sugar beet.
Yeah. Yeah. Didn't think of that, but wow, that's incredible.
No.
Yeah. But it was very hard to convince people to grow that plant. Like I found it fascinating how he chronicled, like, he wanted Watsonville to be the center of his sugar beet empire. He goes there, he's talking it up, he's getting like signatures from people that they're like, yeah, we're gonna do that. And then 2 days later, it's like, yeah, we're not sure anymore. And then he's like, well, then I look somewhere else. But I really would like you to do this. And then people like, yeah, I guess we can do this.
Yeah.
I was just,
yeah.
Again, the tenaciousness, right? Of like,
yes,
I'm gonna do this together.
You did it twice.
Yeah.
In Watsonville, then down there in Salinas, when he had to expand operations. Yeah, but the methods he uses, like, oh, really? I'll go somewhere else. Of course, he wasn't going to go anywhere else. He just told him that he was going to get it come because he had the mayor in his pocket. He had all the elite businessmen knew if he would come and establish this refinery, they could finally build a school, build a church, do some roads, which is exactly what happened. He put Watson on the map. So the rest of the United States, these struggling cities were going, could we be a Watsonville? So that's when the government got involved, contacts Claus and says, can you help us? You're going to be the foremost expert on beet cultivation. Teach us. And so that's when he rises. All the stuff's behind him, all the horrible things that happen with his kids and in Hawaii and the businessmen and the tragedies and the deaths. Now he said, I'm 60 years old. I should be in a rocking chair, but now I'm an expert. I have put my state of California, which I love so much. He never called himself an immigrant, always a Californian. He resented it if he ever referred to him as a German immigrant. No, I'm a Californian. I came here and my manhood was young before we were a state. So 50 years he had given to this state. So he's then his mission is accomplished. He's teaching not only California, it's his give back to America who gave me all these opportunities, he said. America, you've made this poor tenant farmer rich. And I've done so much. Thank you, America. And by the way, California, when I'm dead, I want you to know, Klaus Spreckels, what did he say? I forget what his quote was, but like, when my bones are in the ground, that I have done something, for you to give back because you've been so good to me.
Yeah.
So he really, at the end of his life, he cries a lot, and you'll see he goes to accept things, and he's like, he can't stand being acknowledged, and he cries. He said, "Oh, he's just so sweet." When men get older, they get a little more tender. I found women get harder. We're all tender raising our kids, and then we get harder and jaded. You men who come off from the business world, you get older, you get more tender-hearted, and I see that in Klaus. He's very, he's very soft and tender for the first time in his life. And I just fell in love with him when he didn't go there to say, I'm the richest man in California. He went to talk farmer to farmer. Look, I'm a farmer. I grew up farming. Let me, I know your life. I lived your life. Listen to me. You're going to be able to feed your family. You're going to be able to build your own house. Just listen to me. That's what I just love that. I would have given up on him. I'm like, oh, okay, bye. Not him.
Well, I think the other part why you didn't give up on him is that in contrast to the Red publication in Germany, he is not a robber baron, right? This is a Gilded Age. The Gilded Age is a period of robber barons, of like monopolies, of exploitation, of dirty industry, and he just is like everything the Gilded Age is not. He's just not that.
And when he died in 1908, his biography, his eulogies, they knew at the time that he had been cut from another cloth. So in his eulogies, many different ones, they're saying he's not the robber baron people may want him to say. He gave and gave and gave. There's philanthropies we don't even know about. And so I said, oh, even in his era, they made sure when he died, they wanted him, because his death was pretty significant. So it went worldwide when he died. But when we have a few generations go by, we've got a couple of these historians go, oh yeah, he's a robber baron Spreckels, one of those rich guys. I'm like, okay, part of that is the reason I have to write his book. I've got to correct history. I need to correct this.
Well, do you think is it because I'm going to do speculation a little bit, since last interview was a lot of speculation. Do you think it's just because every big industrialist during this period is a robber baron. That's why people were thinking he's a robber baron. Is it because people just listen to the Hawaiians too much? That, oh, this evil Spreckels guy? Like, did they? Well, we'll get to the second part in a minute.
I hope that's a those are rhetorical questions, right?
Fair enough. We can leave that to the audience to contemplate.
Yes, sir.
But related to that,
Can I just inject something because I think
yeah.
you'd get me, the writer? One of the criticisms that's come out with my books from reviewers from the publishers are they send these out to these scholarly writers in fields, and they come back. Dr. Bonura needs to synthesize why this man, for instance, Claus did this or why did that. He needs to couch it. She needs to present it more. She needs to make sense of that move. She needs to do this. I have to write a response to every objection to the committee published. So you know that I've done that.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a common thing for me. And I always chime back. I'm not changing. I'm not telling the reader. Why don't you give credit to the reader? Let the reader make their own evaluation based on their own context.
Yeah.
I don't need to say, oh, blah, blah, blah. And oh, just like his father did, blah, blah, blah. No, the reader knows that. Oh, let the reader feel smart. Acknowledge your reader is smart. Don't tell your reader everything. We all are a product of our context, are we not? We all look at life differently. You know, I look at Claus Spreckels through my female maternal lens a lot. It's through your male and your education level, how you were raised. We all look at it different. I wanted this book, and this book, I think, especially with Empire Builder, does so good with book clubs because they can fight with each other. And I don't think he did it because of that. And you know.
Yeah, there's debate possibility.
I know. I'm not telling people. I refuse. And I'm supported all the time. Just happened for my last book review. It's like they did it again, this outside reviewer. And I'm like, nah, not doing it.
Yeah, trust me, I've had the last book had some really interesting reviewer comments too.
They think they're smarter than you.
Yeah, and then the reviewer made stuff up.
Yeah, yeah, because
which was the worst.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's awful.
Yeah, that was like, we looked at a list that were like 10 things that we were supposed to change, and we looked at it and we're like, wait, we don't say that. Where's he getting this? Where's it getting this from?
Lazy.
Yeah,
Lazy.
like it was weird. It was totally weird. We pushed back and the press was like, all right, we'll publish.
That's right, just push back. Yeah, when you get to be a certain age, now if I were 20 something,
you don't have a choice.
No, I'm not. I'm starting my 7th decade. I'll push back all I want.
Second part where I almost was going to before you're like, oh, I'm not, let's the audience figure it out. So why do you think he is forgotten? Like, is it because of the fight of his children? Is it just that he was a good guy? He doesn't fit our profile for the Gilded Age? Is it?
No,
there are too many other good figures we want to study?
What I say, because I do a lot of presentations in person, and my last slide, I always ask the audience, what would the Spreckels name be today if there had been more forgiveness? What would that look like today? What happened? And so I want them to think about the fact that, you know, the book talks about how the 2 older sons got the bulk of the fortune. At the last moment, he made a switch. Yeah. And the 3 others, and he disowned his first 2 that had been loyal to him, but he had lost a whole lifetime of relationship with the 3 youngest children. And then those two served. It went way on after the death of Claus and then the death of Anna, the lawsuits. Now, when John D. Spreckels was dying, in Coronado, California, the youngest son, Rudolph, who got the money after Claus died, but he made his way down to San Diego
Mhm.
to make amends with his dying older brother and say, "You're dying.
Yeah.
John wouldn't let him in the door. Even on his deathbed, they would not forgive,
Mm.
would not forget. Money became too important. Now, the three youngest brothers lived through the Depression in America,
Mm.
and so they lost everything. They
Yeah.
were poor. They lost everything except for Rudolph, but the other two, and John had already died before that. Adolf had died, but I think so. There was so much animosity amongst the descendants
Mm.
of Klaus's sons were remarkable in themselves. They
Yeah.
themselves, especially John D, created his own industries,
Yeah.
but he had children, right?
Mhm.
And those children they were born with silver spoons in their mouth, and
Yeah.
they married wrong people sometimes. There's
Mm.
many marriages within, I mean, there's one guy who had she's 4 marriages, these kids, and so there was a lot of lawsuits. Clark Gable was involved at one point. There's so much drama. The word we get sugar daddy comes from Adolf.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
from Adolf Spreckels, the party boy. He died of syphilis.
Mm.
He was just an interesting guy, John's brother, but so many lawsuits. And San Diego, within 2 weeks of his death, the Northern California bought out all the holdings just as retaliation.
Mm.
The retaliation after the death, the lack of forgiveness.
Yeah.
Today, if they had got along, it wouldn't be C&H sugar on our shelves. It would be Spreckles sugar on our shelves today.
Yeah.
Spreckles sugar is not on my shelf because of their lack of forgiveness. And then
Yeah.
when I meet the descendants, they were said, don't talk about the Spreckles because so many hurt feelings. So that's
Mm.
why I think that legacy. So my mission is to make these descendants proud of their very first
Yeah.
immigrant. The very first Spreckles to set his foot on American soil. Look to him. You should be so proud. And they are. I get letters and comments all the time. I've got new Spreckles cousins with this book.
Yeah.
So it's really wonderful,
That is
to
nice.
yeah.
Well, and it was a very heartbreak. The last two chapters were very heartbreaking in so many regards because because so much collapsed at the same time for Spreckles, right? There's the earthquake in San Francisco, the loss of the house, um, kind of the kind of wanting to make amends with the family, but that creates more animosity between the kids, and also kind of his disappointment, I guess, with John, right? And John especially, of like that he's not paying attention to keep this sugar empire of his dad's alive, working, defended it, and is sort of like so focused on his other businesses that it's like, oh, well, if it goes away, then
Yeah,
whatever. And
I know, but do we blame him? Because I can
no,
go on. How could you let this happen? You were supposed to watch this,
yeah,
watch the enemies from taking over the rivals
yeah,
while he was getting the sugar beet going. But John
yeah,
had a life.
yeah,
He had
exactly. It's not
he
his
had a
business.
he had a shipping company that he was running,
Yeah.
a huge shipping company, and he built a city. He not only built San Diego's infrastructure, he built our superstructure.
Mm.
1 in 10 people in San Diego, and his era worked for a Spreckles company. There must have
Mm.
been 15 of them. He was the city's largest taxpayer. How can he run a sugar,
Yeah.
keep his father's legacy alive at the sake of his own?
Yeah.
And he's got children who are also going through things.
Yeah.
His son died young.
Oh,
It's
it's
too
yeah.
big.
Yeah.
It's easy for me to get mad at John, but since I'm his biographer, I give him grace. I can throw the other ones under the bus.
That's until we write Randall's or Adolph's
Yeah, we'll throw him under.
biography.
You're no good.
Oh, gee. I guess there's a whole book on like the Spreckels lawsuits you could write.
Well, the Supreme Court, they kept the Supreme Court busy. If you are one of the slides I show in my presentation is actually, if you're going to be a lawyer, pass the California bar, you need to know Spreckels v. Spreckels because they put into law. It's the California marital property law. And thank you to the
No
Spreckels.
kidding.
Oh, no, I'm not kidding you. I don't know why no one's done a documentary on this family. Oh my gosh, it would be a soap opera, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I was actually thinking maybe you should start with a movie first, but that could be a nice mini
I do a
series
movie. I
on
could see a
TV.
movie. Yeah, that'd be a great movie. Oh my gosh, so spicy. Someone just bought the rights to the audiobook of Sugar King last week.
Oh,
Yesterday, what am I saying? Yesterday, I was just informed someone wants it for an audiobook.
cool.
Inside my publisher. So we'll see if maybe this thing will get some garner some attention.
Well, I mean, you are in California, and it's a California story that is very close to Hollywood, so it could entice people. That would be an interesting, like,
I
I
might
mean,
not be
especially these days, right? With like Amazon and Netflix and even like
right.
Paramount doing like stuff for their digital platforms, like they can do mini series on anything and everything that could be
Yeah,
interesting.
but look at me, how old I am. I mean, you have to be this young person who knows how to market, who knows how to
Yeah.
get out there. And
Yeah.
that's me. So I don't know how
All
to
you
do
need is a
that.
producer picking up your book and saying, "Yes, that's the book I want to do."
Yeah, we just need a good producer to see some value in it because
Yeah.
it'd make great. I'm already casting people in my head. Okay.
Oh, goodness. Um, let's see. So there's so many things on the list here of great topics, but I think we're gonna leave Hawaii to the readers because that is so much more fun to read about than anything else.
Yeah.
Um,
I thank you for your support for authors and your love of history. We really do appreciate you.
Always, I love reading, and it always is inspiring to get new books.
Yeah, I see all the
For you.
books behind you.
That's all
Wow.
my wife.
Oh, you're kidding.
That's my wife's section. Mine are over there and upstairs. This
Wow.
was the only space that had a space in front of it that was open that I could park myself.
That's amazing. That's a lot of books.
Yeah, it was very expensive to move those to Europe.
Oh, I bet they were.
Oh, which let's do one last European related one. So, what German characteristic you think Spreckels benefited from the most?
Oh, well, since my mother was German and my grandmother lived with us, so I was
Mhm.
raised, to be on time, to make
Mm,
sure. I mean, this is one thing that set them apart in their era, especially when John D. Spreckels was developing the Oceanic, the first steamship liners to travel
yes.
California to Hawaii to New Zealand to Australia. That's big. He was always punctual. So he was
Hmm.
so punctual, he got the US mail contract,
Yeah.
which only added money because they says we can only count on a
Mm,
Spreckles ship to be on time. And
yeah.
he would leave. If they were waiting for some important documents at 5:10 and they'll be there at 5 o'clock, but your ship, if you're not there by 5, the ship would take off and that'd be another week's. Just punctual.
Yeah.
I think that's a German trait. He also liked all the Spreckles family. They love beauty. It was good to
Mm,
have organization and utilitarian and
mm,
everything had a function. but let's make sure it's pretty and pleasing to the eye. You
Mm,
know, they all were great horticulturists and
mhm.
loved flowers and trees. And I find
Yeah.
that very much a German thing. And then
Oh,
music,
yes. Oh,
yes,
yes.
yes. Oh, it was good to have that validated. And music was very important. Of course,
Mm,
the German composers,
yeah.
you know, that was piped in. So music and beauty and art and literature.
Wasn't one
Um,
of the kids like more musically inclined and then
yes, yeah, that's we're going to go down some more rabbit trails. We're not
no,
talking
no.
about that.
It is kind
But
of there's so many kids that you kind of lose track of yeah.
yes. And I think, my own trait is German. If you tell me I can't do something, I'm gonna do it just because you told me I can't. You
Yeah, that
know,
sounds German. Yes.
yeah, that's me. People know me. And when I start something, oh, I'm finishing it.
Hmm.
If I've committed, I'm gonna stay the course.
Yeah.
And I think that's a German trait that I inherited. Also very you know, people can take it sometimes ruthless, like
Yes.
not a lot of small talk. Why are you
Hmm.
here? Get to the bottom line. How can I help? What can I do?
Hmm. Yeah. Very,
And
very business oriented.
yes, that's right. Very business oriented. So that only served him well,
Yeah.
in business. And then
So it
it
sounded
helped.
like Spreckles was a little bit more of like the conversational one in the
Yes,
factory, whereas John was more of the right. What do you want? Out.
exactly. Yes. State your business and yeah, I've got things to do. He was so overcommitted, John was.
Uh,
He was the one, but Klaus never saw himself as a part of history because he
mm,
was too busy making it.
yeah.
He just never slowed down,
Hmm.
and he never really got to be retired.
No.
So maybe the Germans don't like to retire. I don't know. I mean,
Well, it feels oftentimes that once Germans retire, they're more busy than they were when they were working. Try
right? They're
to
not
make
going
an
to sit home
appointment
and
with,
watch. Yeah, Germans aren't going to sit down and watch TV. They're going to get hobbies. They're going to go be out and doing something,
yep,
and that was
need to move the garden gnome 5 feet over and then back
yeah.
and scissor cuts the garden.
So
Yes,
funny. You are
yes.
so funny. I've enjoyed talking to you. You are so personable,
Uh,
intelligent. This has been such joy.
and it was fun. And it's a great book. It's really, really enjoyable to read. And for our listeners, just as a reminder, so this is The Sugar King of California, The Life of Klaus Spreckels with University of Nebraska Press, which you can obtain from the University of Nebraska Press and other places.
Yeah, and if anybody
But
wants a 50% off coupon, I can send you some code. You know,
ooh,
yeah, you get 50% off and they'll ship it to Germany. I'll ship it anywhere.
well, I think most of the listeners, hopefully, actually, a good number of my listeners are in France for some reason. So, uh,
France.
don't know.
Comment allez-vous?
This was your cue, Andrew. We'll see if he picks up on that.
Andrew, ¿dónde está? So that's Spanish.
He will understand that too, I think. Well, it was a pleasure to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you very
And
much.
again, it was such a pleasure to read your book and learn about Klaus Spreckels. And I hope that within the next few years, you will get to see somewhere a statue of him going up.
Me too. I'll let you know. And Happy New Year to you. I wish you all the health and happiness that
Thank
life
you.
brings.
And it's the same back to you. And I hope that I guess the next couple days will be enjoyable before you get the next new president.
Oh, that's coming, huh? We're not talking
Yeah,
about fires in California or presidents.
I can totally understand that considering what's going on.
Yeah.
So, best of luck with that fire season this year, too.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you
Bye.
so much. Bye.